Welcome to Database Management System series of lectures. Today we'll discuss about Unit 1, Topic 7, that is Database System Environment. As we have already discussed what a data is. Data is a collection of raw facts and figures, which does not make any sense. But the processed data is called as an information. This information can be better understandable to anyone so that you will be able to make a proper decisions. Right? Now, database is a container wherein the data can be stored in a structured manner. So here, a relation or a table. Database system is nothing but DBMS, database management system, that can be used for communicating with the database for the purpose of creation, storage, modification, and retrieval of data. Database system environment is a collection of various other components which makes us the ultimate communication and fulfill the required task. So the users will make an interaction through the application, and application will interact with the database and finally interacted with the data. So this is how you will be able to interact with the database. The whole thing together, all the collection of all these components together is called as database system environment. Let us look in the different perspectives. Users are interacted with the data with respect to two different techniques. First is using procedures. In this context, the users are interacted with the application. The applications in the background will initiate the requests and makes a call to the procedures. So these are converted into SQL commands and which are interacted with the database. This is first mechanism of interaction with the database. The second one is these users have technically sound knowledge in various technologies. So the user is equipped or trained with SQL language. So they will write the operations in terms of commands. These commands are written using SQL language, that is structured query language. So directly you will be able to interact with the data with the help of this DBMS. Now, hardware is the important component of this computer system, which are tangible in nature. The software which wraps this hardware makes the hardware to work. Right? These are the components of database management system, or it can also be treated as database system environment. First, hardware, software, data, people, access language, and procedure. Let us look at every individual component in a detailed manner. Hardware. Hardware is a physical component which are tangible in nature, which means every user can touch and feel the hardware components. These components can be a collection of various input devices as well as output devices and storage devices. Input devices are various peripherals that are connected to the computer machine for the purpose of reading the data from the users. These could be keyboard, mouse, scanner. Output devices are the peripherals or the components which are connected to the computer machine. They are for the purpose of displaying the content onto the screen. So, monitor, printer. Third are storage devices, which are used for the purpose of storing the data onto the memory. They are RAM, ROM. RAM, this is volatile in nature. As soon as you turn off the system, all the data flushed out from the memory. So, which is a temporary storage. Read-only memory is a permanent storage of data, which is non-volatile in nature. Once you have written the data into raw memories, will be used for permanent. And these are stored on hard disk or secondary storage area. So all this together represents the hardware component. Second is software. Software is a collection of programs or procedures. These programs and procedures are the collection of instructions. This instruction is nothing but a collection of commands. Every command represents a specific operation or a task. This task is understandable by the processor and it executes that, right? So anything that you wanted to perform should be specified with the software. With respect to the software, we use three different types of softwares. One is system software, application software. As part of system software, we can take operating system, which is an interface between the user and the system. Application software is also an interface between the user and the components, the hardware components. And third type of softwares which we use here are network softwares. If the systems are interconnected with each other for the purpose of exchange of data from one place to the other place. So here we use database management system as the application software which is intended to be written for a specific database. Third one is data. Data is a collection of raw facts and figures which do not make any sense, but the processed data can be termed as an information which can be represented in a format which can be understandable by the users. And this information helps anyone to make a better decisions, right? So if the data is taken 1248 Anu, if this is the data, then we can put it in a format, date, age, and name of a person. So 1248 Anu. So this collected facts are kept in a proper order, and that's how it is called as a data. That's how it is called as an information. Now it is readable. A person with the name age 40, with the name Anu, with age 48, was born on the date 12th in the month of June of 2000. So this can be taken as an example for the information so that it will be in a readable format. Anyone can understand, right? So this data, which is represented in this format, is called as unstructured data, which means that it does not have any format. Whereas this data is called as structured data, which has a specific meaning, which is represented in a particular format that can be understandable to anyone. Even a naive user will be able to understand what the data is about. Fourth component is procedure. User can interact with the database with the help of, if the users are of type online naive users, then they do not have any technical knowledge, then they will use the application and any interaction with the application can be converted into various database calls. And these calls are understandable by the database system, and that's how it gets converted into SQL language and will interact with the data. So these calls are called as procedures. This will initiate or activate the procedure or subroutine or a function that does the conversion call into the database calls. And the next type is people. Every user will be represented into three different types. The first one is naive users who do not have any idea about the current technology as well as the underlying architecture. Second type of users are called as database owners. Third type of users are data analysts. Fourth type of users are database administrators. Naive users do not have any knowledge or any idea. they will simply interact with the application. And that's how they'll get the output. They do not know how this application is interacting in the background environment and how does it retrieve the data. Database owners are the users who have little knowledge about how the data is being created and how this data is stored and how this data can be accessible. They will know little about SQL language. Database analysts. These are the sophisticated users who not only have technical stuff about SQL languages and various other programming languages, and also the underlying architecture, how the data is being stored at the physical level. And at what frequency the data is being accessible, and what are the various optimization techniques that are implemented so that to reduce the access time. All these queries that are written to access to the data in a fast retrieval. And the last type of users are database administrators. They are also called as super users who have the super capabilities compared to all the other types of users. Database administrator have the right to create an user, to delete the user, to allow the user to access to any data at different access privileges. We have read, write, and then execute privileges. If the user is given to read only the data, then they are allowed to look at the data and go through the data. They don't have any scope to modify the data. Whereas the users with the right to permission are allowed to modify the data to some extent. Whereas the users who have the access privilege with execute are allowed to write the procedures and run these procedures on the database data and retrieve it. So these are the types of people that we have with respect to database environment. Next, database access language. As I already told you that we use structured query language to access to the database. So this language has subcategorized all the commands into 4. That is data definition language commands, data manipulation language commands, data control language commands, and then data transaction control language commands. In DDL, you define the data using create, alter, drop, describe. We use those set of commands for performing definition language commands. Data manipulation language. So here we have insert command to write some data into it, delete command to remove the data from the existing table, and then update command for performing modifications to the existing data. Third type of commands are data control language commands, which are grant and revoke. They will allow the users to access to the given data with respect to the permissions. If a user has got different types of access privileges, accordingly, you either allow the user to access to the data with specific commands. We grant them to perform data manipulation, or we stop them in performing the operation, which may lead the system to the inconsistency of the data. Fourthly, or lastly, we have data control language, transaction control language commands. They are commit and rollback. Commit allows us to freeze the data. Whatever the manipulations that have made so far are going to be preserved. Rollback is used to convert your inconsistent state of your system to a consistent state by undoing the last operations till you reach to the safe zone of the transaction. We'll be looking at these commands practically with respect to MySQL database in the next lectures. Thank you. This will be the end of the database system environment.